It was 25 years ago, and it was yesterday, you might say. A lone young man in a white shirt, defying the tanks, rolling in to Beijing's Tiananmen Square. One day earlier, authorities started cracking down on unprecedented student protests. On the surface of it, one quarter century on, civil liberties, the civil liberties genie has well and truly been put back in the bottle in China. Cue the tight filters around Tiananmen Square this Wednesday, the reports of preventive arrests, and the stepped-up filtering of the internet on this 25th anniversary. But China's by no means remained frozen in time. The capitalist wave triggered by then-Premier Deng Xiaoping has put China on a startling path to becoming the world's largest economy. Civil liberties have evolved in some ways, and the current government may extend them further for natives of rural areas still tied to their land. But how far has this evolution gone? How far can it go? We're going to ask how today's Chinese remember 1989 and what's become of the Chinese model, especially at a time when regimes elsewhere are looking to put that democracy genie back in the bottle. Today in the France 24 debate, Tiananmen Square, 25 years on. Joining us, she left China in 1991 after university studies in Beijing. Yaxue, founder of ChinaChange.org, joins us from Washington. Thank you for being with us here in the debate. We want to thank as well. We want to thank as well Steve Tsang, who teaches at the University of Nottingham. Welcome back to the show. Welcome to economist Philippe Dufresne, who chairs the INSEAD Business School's Competitive Intelligence Alumni Club. Two French academics are also with us. Alice Ekman of the French Foreign Relations think tank IFRI, welcome back to the show. And to Frédéric PUPATTI of the University of Lille 2, who is focused squarely on China. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. Yaxue, the obvious question, yes. Where were you on June the 4th, 1989?
I was in Shenzhen, the newly established economic zone bordering Hong Kong. And I watched the whole episode as a TV audience because at the time we could receive TV from Hong Kong. So I watched the entire process on TV.
One of the rare ones. Most people heard about it over shortwave radio.
No, I didn't have to use shortwave radio.
What did you think? There'd been 1 month of protests up to that point. Where did you see it going?
At the time, I wasn't. I was still very young, also in my 20s, and just out of college. I was very scared, and I also went on the street in my city, but it was much smaller. I didn't think the question where China was going. I just, when the crackdown came, it was an awakening call. It's from that point on, I began to ask, what this regime is all about, because it's nothing we had expected or imagined could have happened.
And less than 2 years later, you leave China.
Yeah, my decision had to do with the 89.
Your decision had to do with the 89, but it must have been a tough one.
Yes, I came to the United States to study literature in 91. And for all these years, very few Chinese want to study literature because it has it's not very useful. And I being someone who wanted to write, going abroad wasn't an option because what did you do in the United States or in Europe or elsewhere? So, but 89 sort of put my personal, on a personal level, put my personal options in front of me, and that my options were very bleak. Yeah.
All right, Steve, let me ask you, Steve Tsang, what's your memory of that day back in 1989?
Well, I don't have particular memories. I was a China watcher. I watched what happened. I was appalled by what I saw. I have to say that I was not totally surprised. I was expecting that at some stage they would be implementing a crackdown. The way how they did it was particularly brutal, but it was not entirely out of character with the nature of the regime in place.
Not entirely out of character, but what did you think a month earlier when those protests just started to grow and grow and grow?
Good luck to them. I mean, that was basically what I thought. I was surprised that the regime allows the events to unfold for as long as it did. Then it became clear that that was happening because there was a very intense power struggle at the top, and therefore there was an unusual political paralysis at the very top of the Chinese Communist Party, and that was the reason why they were not able to act. And it was really a question of whether they could resolve their differences one way or the other. And if they could resolve their differences, then they would do something about it one way or the other. As we now know, it was decided by Deng Xiaoping siding with the hardliners, and therefore the crackdown was implemented.
The crackdown was implemented, and so it began. One final question about this, and I'll put it to you, Yaxue Cao. Quite a large number of the dissidents did make it abroad. There was a network of people to filter them out. Are they all together in contact today, or are they all scattered to the four corners of the globe?
They are scattered, but most of them are still in great solidarity and connected. And just a couple of days ago, I think it's on the June 2nd, they initiated this campaign called the 天下围城, means surrounding the city from around the world. The city means Beijing, I mean the center of China. So they are still very much alive. They are I've been talking to a few of them. They're extremely proud of their what they did in 25 years ago. Now they're in their middle age. Some of them are thinking every single day what they can do to bring about change.
All right, a lot of reactions coming in from our viewers. One on Twitter: when will the Chinese Communist Party realize that the more it suppresses dissent, the stronger that dissent will grow? We're going to put that to the test in a moment with the rest of our panel. And one more reaction for you. In New York, France 24's Mark Perlman sitting down with one of China's most prominent dissidents, attorney Cheng Guangcheng. He fled via the U.S. Embassy in Beijing in 2012. Like many, he feels that the crackdowns have gotten worse over the years.
I have the feeling that our government is constantly worried that the situation will get out of hand. For the last 20 years, every single day, every hour, we can say that big or small June 4th massacres have been occurring. They don't have any self-confidence and don't believe they can keep grip on power forever. They know that it could collapse anytime.
They know it can collapse every time. Not sure that's true, though, Alice Ekman.
Well, I think, just to follow up on the Twitter question, I think actually the party is conscious about the risk of top-down censorship and control on dissent, as it has done so far, I mean, until now, under Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping has been trying to reinforce control. Basically, there is continuity with the previous leadership on this specific area, human rights. And there is top-down control. At the same time, there is a development of a new media landscape on the internet, and the consciousness that in this context, maybe smart control need to be developed. This is in Beijing, how Beijing is viewing newer development, and there is a huge debate now within the party about how to behave, how to control, how to manage the internet.
Because we know that at the start of the week there were complaints that Google was suddenly very slow and there wasn't access to its services.
So it's a very strange mix of both top-down control and a softer approach, which is using internet users to spread party-affiliated message. It's some form of smart mix between top-down and a grassroots use of existing activism. For instance, green activism, environmental activism has received some positive response recently, and this is pretty new. This doesn't mean that that the censorship does not exist and top-down control is not firm and strict. It is really strict, but it means that the government is conscious that sometimes being too strict can be counterproductive. But the aim remains the same: remain political stability. That is what Xi Jinping is clearly mentioning since he stepped up at the end of 2012.
So, in other words, you agree, Frédéric PUPATTI, you can air your grievances when it comes to social issues, but just stay away from the politics.
Definitely. Just like Alice mentioned earlier, there's a two-way approach, basically. On the one way, a harsh one, which everybody here is very familiar with, and let's say a softer one, but on a very, very slight way. And the party is playing on both these two approaches. No one knows how long it's going to evolve and how long it's going to be said that way.
No one knows how long it's going to be said that way. Let me ask you, Philippe Dufresne, why is it that it seems as though over the years the anniversary of Tiananmen is kept under a tighter and tighter lid?
Well, Tiananmen has always been a symbol, even before the protests of 1989. It's just that right now China is at a crossroad, economically speaking. This is what I'm more interested in. The thing is, the reforms that Xi Jinping wants to implement are the right reforms, but the situation is a bit touchy right now because inflation is very strong. Unemployment is kind of high as well, at least for white collars, and the corruption has reached some levels that Xi Jinping himself wants to fight against. So this symbol of Tiananmen might be a good gauge to see how things are going. Will there be many people or not? This is how we can see if the Chinese people are satisfied with the current situation or not.
Steve Tsang, do you agree?
Well, they are worried about Tiananmen Square, but then it is a party, a government that has a long-standing record in rewriting history. The Communist Party has a monopoly of the truth and of history, and we have seen in the last 25 years how incredibly successful they have been in rewriting that history, in getting a new generation of Chinese growing up in China, knowing nothing about what happened in Tiananmen Square 1989. All they know is what the party wants them to know. And that is something that we have to bear in mind in terms of the ability of this particular government to stay in power.
All right. Agreement on Twitter from one viewer saying, sad that most young Chinese today have no record of Tiananmen Square, only stories whispered. It has been airbrushed out of history. Do you get the sense, Yaxue, that there's also perhaps a lot of people who simply are indifferent?
There are both. There are kids who, young people, and even people who are into their young adulthood. They simply wasn't taught, and it wasn't in their history book. It's cleared out of anywhere they can see, so they simply didn't know. There are young people who could have known. They have information. They're smart with IT techs, and they could have found out, and they're just indifferent. And part of that indifference is also engineered and taught them to be indifferent. The party does not evoke in the school teaching people's sense of wrong and what happened in Chinese history and what people were asking. But there are, I must say, there are from a Chinese intellectual, from Chinese activists, and from a group of very young people, the number wasn't that small. They know, they go around, they find the information, and in Hong Kong and the Victoria Park, there's a big number of them participants came from China mainland.
Yeah, coming from the mainland, you say the government itself reacting angrily to what it describes as, quote, the political incident which happened in the late 1980s.
In China, there are only criminals. The so-called dissidents, as you mentioned, do not exist. China's competent authorities handle matters according to the law. China's judicial sovereignty deserves to be respected.
Alice Ekman, it was interesting because the full transcript of the Foreign Ministry briefing, it's a daily briefing they do at the Chinese Foreign Ministry, they talk about how the evolution of China as well. He made the argument about how China's evolved a lot since 1989.
Well, on the economic side, it is true. I mean, considering the high rate of economic growth, considering urbanization trend, etc., this is for sure. But politically, we cannot say the same. And I would say that today, I mean, now we have the confirmation after Xi Jinping arrival that the new leadership is heading toward continuity, that is still aiming at political stability and the prevalence of the one-party system. But the question now we can ask ourselves is, what about the Chinese population? We often talk about an emerging middle class who has a different maybe approach toward the political system, maybe with raising a different type of debate. Personally, as an analyst, I'm not sure that the emergence of the middle class is leading to democracy in the case of China. If we look, this is a matter of debate, of course, that's why we're here, but if we look at the constitution of this middle class, majority of them have benefited from the current political system. Many of them are party affiliated, many of them are civil servants. So they are maybe not the ones who are most critical about the current situation. Maybe the strongest critics are emerging from the countryside or from provinces who are not yet benefited from the economic growth. But what is changing, once again, I insist because I think this is a major change, is the media landscape. And that's where a generation gap is emerging, where we are seeing a new generation of Chinese internet users who are participating more to debate, social debate, political debate, and who are also more skillful in bypassing the existing censorship, and who are also more cynical about traditional state-owned television programs. So we have a new type of generation, but even within this generation, a significant amount of them are party members. For instance, we have now 85 million party members of the Communist Party of China, and more than 1/4 of them are age 35 or younger.
Or younger. So, let's pick up on that point because we have to take a quick break. But how you put a lid on it all is the question as we look at the Chinese model. Stay with us. It's the France 24 debate.